Welcome, everyone, to the Deep Dive. I'm Lex.
And I'm Vera, and we are so glad you could join us today.
At Shield Media, we're all about helping businesses like yours really make it in the digital world. And when we say businesses like yours, we're talking specifically to business owners and C-level executives. We're a digital marketing agency, and we really zone in on local SEO, PPC, and SMM. And, we're experts at getting results for Western clients.
Yeah, that's right. And today we're going deep on a topic that's really essential for anyone who's online. It's the Google March 2025 Core Update. We've got some great info on this update, and we're here to break it down for you, cut through the technical stuff and give you the key takeaways. Think of it like your own personal briefing on this big Google change.
All right, so let's jump right in. This Google March 2025 Core Update, it's done now, finished rolling out on March 27th of this year.
Yep.
And it started on March 13th, so it took about 2 weeks to fully roll out. But here's the interesting part. Google's calling this a typical Core Update, Vera. When they say typical, what should our listeners really be hearing?
That's a great question, Lex. When Google says typical core update, they usually mean they're just fine-tuning their main ranking system. It's all about making those search results you see more relevant and helpful. Making sure Google really gets what you're looking for when you type something in, and then giving you the best pages for that search.
So they're just getting better at their job, basically.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. And just for some context, you mentioned this was the first core update of 2025, right after that one from December 2024. There was a lot of talk about Google doing these more often, but this one came a few months later. So what's the deal with that time frame? Does it tell us anything important?
It's a good reminder that even though people thought updates would come faster, Google does these when they're good and ready, when those refinements to their system are actually, ready to go.
Makes sense.
This few-month gap, it's not really that strange. And it probably means they're taking their time, making sure the changes are really going to make a difference for people searching.
Makes sense. Quality over quantity, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's get into what actually happened during this update. The info you shared mentioned that some websites saw some pretty big ranking swings going both up and down, but it also said that the overall impact wasn't as big as some past updates, although it was still a pretty big deal for those who were affected. What does that tell us about this specific update?
The interesting thing here is that big changes for some, but not everyone, suggests this update might have been focused on certain parts of how Google judges websites. It wasn't like a total makeover, but if your website happened to be in one of those areas that Google was tweaking, you probably saw a pretty noticeable change in where you rank.
So certain websites were really targeted?
Yeah, it seems that way.
Yeah.
And don't forget, some sites saw their rankings go up. That's important because it could mean Google is starting to recognize and reward sites that are doing things right. The ones that are really relevant and helpful.
Right, so it's not all doom and gloom.
Exactly.
There's good and bad in every update. Okay, cool. And there's also something about some extra volatility in the rankings toward the end of the rollout. What do you think was happening there?
That late-stage volatility could mean Google was putting the finishing touches on things. Or maybe the full effects of those initial changes were still kind of rippling through the system.
So like an aftershock, almost.
Kind of. It's not unusual to see rankings settle down a bit after a core update is completely rolled out. But those later movements suggest the algorithm was still making adjustments.
So Google was still tinkering even after the official rollout.
It seems that way.
Fascinating. And there's this other thing that caught my eye. It said that changes to the actual Google search result pages during all this might have made it harder for some people to track the update's impact. It's like trying to measure a wave while the tide is changing.
It's exactly. If Google's also playing around with how search results look, like different featured snippets or a new layout, it's harder to figure out if a change in your website's visibility is because of the core update itself or these changes to how things look. It makes it even more complicated to understand what's really going on with the search results.
So many moving parts.
It's like a puzzle with a bunch of extra pieces.
Okay, so for our listeners who may have seen their website's performance change, what's the takeaway here? What's Google saying?
Well, Google's advice is pretty consistent. They say there's no magic bullet to guarantee your ranking will go back up if it dropped.
Okay.
And they make a really important point. A lower ranking doesn't automatically mean your website is bad or broken.
Yeah.
Their main message is to focus on creating content that people actually want to read. Content that's satisfying, really emphasizing that helpful, reliable, people-first content.
So it's all about the user experience.
Absolutely.
And they also have this list of questions for website owners who've been affected. I'm guessing those questions are designed to make you really think about the quality and purpose of your content.
You got it. They ask things like, is your content original? Is it actually valuable compared to other stuff on the web? Does it show expertise and trustworthiness? Is it designed for the user or just to trick search engines?
Right. So is it actually good content, or are you just trying to game the system?
Exactly. It's about looking at your website, honestly. Like you're someone who's actually trying to learn something or solve a problem.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
And it also mentioned that if a website was negatively impacted by that September 2023 helpful content update, they shouldn't expect this March core update to fix everything. That suggests that these different types of updates are looking at different things when they evaluate a website.
that's a super important point to understand. The helpful content update was specifically about getting rid of content that was low quality, unhelpful, or just made to trick search engines. Not for actual people.
Right, like keyword stuffing and all that.
Yeah, it's exactly. A core update, though, while it's also about making search results better, works on a wider range of ranking factors. So if your site was hit by that helpful content update, you probably need to address those content issues directly. Don't just hope a core update will magically fix everything.
So don't get complacent.
Right, keep working on your content.
Okay, so for anyone who wants to keep tabs on how their website is doing after this update, what should they be using?
Google's Search Console, for sure. Google made this tool specifically to help you see how your website is doing in their search results. You can track things like your overall search traffic, the keywords your site is ranking for, and your average position for those keywords. It's the best way to figure out how this update affected you. Just keep an eye on those metrics, especially around the time of the update.
Google Search Console. Got it. Now, zooming out a bit, Google does these core updates every few months. What's the long-term plan here? What should our listeners be thinking about with this constant cycle of updates?
The key is to always be improving. Your website and your content, they should always be evolving, constantly getting better. By focusing on creating high-quality, user-focused content and a great website experience, you're not just trying to please Google's algorithm for a quick win. You're building something solid that's more likely to do well over time, even with future updates.
It's like a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly. It's about investing in the long-term health of your online presence.
Love that analogy. So to give everyone a better idea of how often these updates happen, we have a timeline of recent ones. Going back a bit, there was one in March 2025, which we've been talking about, then December 2024, August 2024, March 2024, November 2023, October 2023, August 2023, and March 2023. So these big changes are happening pretty frequently.
Absolutely. This timeline shows that Google's search algorithm is constantly changing. It's not something you can just set and forget. You have to stay informed and proactive about your website's quality.
So to sum it up for you, our listener, the business owner, the C-level executive navigating the digital world, the main thing to remember about this Google March 2025 core update is that it's part of this constant evolution. While the immediate impact might be different for your specific website, Google's message is always the same. Focus on giving your audience real value.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Make sure your content is helpful and reliable. Make sure your website is easy to use and build trust and authority in your industry. Those are the things that not only match Google's goals, but will also help your business succeed online in the long run. And don't forget to check your Google Search Console regularly for any changes, and always keep refining your online strategy with your users in mind.
Speaking of helping businesses succeed online, if anyone listening has any questions about this update or wants to learn more about how Shield Media can help your business navigate the ever-changing world of digital marketing with our local SEO, PPC, and SMM expertise, especially for Western clients, please don't hesitate to reach out to us.
We're always happy to help. And before you go, if you found this information helpful, please click that follow button and share this deep dive with other business owners and executives who could benefit from it. Thank you so much for joining us on The Deep Dive.
We'll catch you next time.